So I'm Arthur Wade Anderson. I represent a few companies, and that's why I was the serial entrepreneur guy on the tick box, and I'll explain why. I started this journey very early in my career when I came back to South Africa to come and see what I could do. Forced into it, on my grandmother's deathbed, she said, "Don't go back to the US, stay. You have a lot to offer." And then 2 months later, I realized that no one was interested in what I had to offer because I was jobless. I was really struggling. I was walking around Cape Town trying to get a job, and there was just nothing happening, right? Even with all my degrees and everything else, right? And eventually, I came to Johannesburg, and I started working for some of the corporates here, and I started realizing there's a huge mismatch in terms of what corporates think we need and what we really need. I used to see people come to the community. I'm from the other side of the tracks. So I used to see people come and they do these wonderful interventions and they're so happy and there's a kumbaya song and everybody's holding hands. And then the next day we're hungry again and hey, when are they coming again with the hot dogs? When is that lady coming back? And I could see that most organizations had something missing. And that missing element to me was empathy. There's a lack of empathy with many organizations. Big corporates bring what you call internet services to a school. Put the computers in place. The day there's a dongle, the data's running, everybody's launching, there's cake and cookies, and when they leave, the entire school is left with disappointment. No one can pay for the data. We can't afford the prepaid power. Who's going to train the teachers? What's going to happen to the project? A year down the line, the principal has already locked that room, it's dusty, and we are told we are unappreciative as a community. You're unappreciative. You guys are not doing anything with this, right? So I started thinking more and more about this, and then, you know what made it worse is my business that I had was doing pretty well. We were climbing towers, putting up antennas and so forth, and you get to see a sprawl of just giving that is coming to an end, right? So I thought, let me come down from the tower and come and see what I can do to work in the community. Let me come down and have a look. And so I said, let me form a company and see how I can assist. Because one of the first things I saw was the big challenge in our communities were playgrounds. We don't have playgrounds in township communities. Even today when they do RDP developments, where's the parks? Where's the play areas? Where do you learn as a child? In the play. You learn about gamification, as the technologists call it now. Gamification is the next thing. We knew gamification when we were pushing bricks. So I wanted to make sure that we could put this in play and allow the people to have access to these services. So we started with playgrounds. Next I joined a friend of mine, and we had a company called Green Outdoor Gyms, and we were then fabricating outdoor gyms in communities. And it wasn't to get the people to go muscular, or the ladies to walk past the mirror and say, It was to get people to come out of their homes. Because what's happening now is, in our tech world, we're like this. And neighbors aren't talking to each other. We walk past each other. We're okay not greeting each other anymore. And in black culture, you have to acknowledge the person. And we don't even do that anymore. And I don't know where it's going, but it's not the right direction. So with our gyms, we started realizing that if we put this in communities, and people come out, and you're forced to do your sit-up opposite somebody, what's going to happen? Hey man, my name is, right? The most basic thing. And that's how we get people talking. And when we get people talking, we start discussing what's happening within our community, who's walking around, what the problems are, how do we solve those problems. So that was the starting point for us when it came to playgrounds. Then I started looking at some challenges within other communities that I had. And remember I said empathy was missing? So I went to different schools and I started asking them, what is missing at the school? Why are we challenged? And I went to these different conferences, because there's beautiful conferences in Sandton, and most teachers would say, no, if you had to measure, if I had to ask you, how good is your classroom? And what makes you different? And how are you measured? And most teachers would say, well, look at my files, and there's this beautiful flower cover on it, and they'll say, I've had it for the past 10 years. And I'll ask, do you share that? No, it's like IP, right? No, I don't share it because I built it, right? So there wasn't a sharing economy happening there. People were keeping things to themselves, and I said, well, that's not going to work. We're going to get left behind. And what we wanted to do next was to see how do we go into communities then and offer this sharing of all the good stuff that's being kept in folders and provided globally. So My first venture into that was to try and do a container conversion. Containers, not because I love containers over everything else, but it was one way to get something in a community. And when I talk container, most people think a cutout, two windows and a door, and that's it. I don't do those containers. I do top-end containers because, you know what? The first time I saw the Mona Lisa, I could understand what other people were saying. When I walked into the cathedral, I could see what they were talking about. And when I walk into an Apple store, I feel the very same way because it's welcoming, it's different, right? And it's no longer where when we come into the store, you have to go past the checkpoint and then everybody's looking at you. Apple's the reverse, right? So you walk in, it's welcoming. I did that in the same way for our tech hubs. I built these beautiful hubs and I put all that content on there. And then I said, you know what? We'll provide the connectivity. We'll provide the support systems and everything else that was needed to keep this and make it sustainable. How are we going to pay for it? Just a little bit of applied thinking again. Put the branding on it, and the branding pays for it. So again, the sustainability part. Are we making money off it? Of course we make money. I'm not a non-profit. And I think a lot of people think social enterprises are largely non-profit. Some of us are for-profit companies. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to demonstrate sustainability. I want to demonstrate to someone, I'm saying, become an entrepreneur. But then I'm begging for money on the side. It shouldn't be that way. We should start building businesses that are built on usual economic principles, right? So we started doing that. And with that, we started creating jobs because people started coming there and they started buying internet services, and then it became a call center type setup. And I can tell you with each of our different pop-ups, I call it pop-ups because it's points of presence for unleashing potential, right? So they come in various forms. So it started out with digital, it then evolved into something totally different. It started doing food, fashion, and furniture. You'll see one in Vilakazi Street, and you'll see other in Kuruman, and it just goes further out. And it's all about creating and stimulating economy for people. Because one of the biggest challenges we have in our communities, or communities of practice, is that we find that businesses within these communities don't get access to supply chain. For what reasons? They don't have a telephone number, they don't have a physical address, there isn't a place where you can go and see the product or service, and immediately the door is closed. And we've changed that. We've allowed people to come in there. We've made meeting room spaces to the likes of Regis and others, right? And now people can go and trade within the community. Why is that important? Because if you start doing businesses in our township communities, the money goes around 5 more times. And why is that important? Because if I'm spending money with my neighbor's also able to spend money on my services or other people's services. And so we get the economy going where we don't have people sitting in abject poverty, but rather new economy streams where everybody gets to benefit, right? A good example would be of how that economic benefit has been for us in the past. When there were Spaza shops, before the Pick n Pays are now rushing in and the USaves, the Spaza shop was the one place where you could go, and that was the person where you could even buy in the book. I don't know if anybody's ever bought in the book? Yeah. Yeah, the times are tough, you buy in the book. That person could extend credit to you. Oftentimes, even that mama was able to even extend the donation to go to school. You'd go there and say, someone's so talented, but they can't afford going to university, and that person will take from their pocket, and they pay. And they'd make that happen for you. Pick n Pay won't do that for you. I'll tell you that off the bat. You go there, Pick n Pay, you do the top point, it's done. I'm just using an example. So these are dynamics in townships that people are not aware of as we start to change these townships. So I started doing that, and then while in the process, like I said, serial entrepreneur, I said to myself, but what about the other businesses? We're doing okay, but what about the other businesses? And we started thinking about incubation services. The world is going through that. There's a lot of big incubators, accelerators, the names are there. And when I started going to funders or donors and saying, guys, because I heard you can do it through enterprise development, I started realizing, wow, there's a lot of people who are not interested in township businesses. And I couldn't understand, because there's so much money in townships. When Standard Bank did their first, the township bank, they said they could get 300,000 cash from the tavern owner without having to bring money into the township. There was cash in the township, right? So I said, let me go out and let's just do it on our own. And we started our first, and then soon we got the right attention from General Electric. And then General Electric started doing 35 companies with us. And then we started getting Saint-Gobain, and Saint-Gobain started putting more companies. And so we started to grow this incubator ecosystem. And again, why is that important? We're helping township businesses with access to market, helping them formalize their businesses so you can trade with them as a big corporate. Lastly, I've also formed other types of businesses in terms of forming the additional infrastructure. So we're doing a lot of green economy type stuff. You saw the green building sign that we had outside here when we came in. So we also have a company that does that. It's doing more than 200 million rand a year now. And the reason for that is because we have to start looking at what are we doing about our environment. Because whatever we're doing, we're still impacting the environment. And I want us to start, with every type of business that we start to launch, what does your green footprint look like? Beyond the sustainability of typical economics. So that's just some of the stuff that we're doing, and like I said, it's all about growing sustainable businesses for us at this stage, and also for those businesses in pass downstream so we can start seeding new projects. That's what we're about.
Fantastic, thank you so much.